Ashley, where you kind of like where we you kind of started on your own is kind of where we wanted to start it. Is like before we dig into like a large conversation about the political and cultural landscape, we just want to know, how are you doing as a black woman who's been on the front line of all of this? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm tired. I've been ripping and running. Actually, the last night it was the first night I got a good night's sleep. Monday and Tuesday I didn't sleep at all for various reasons. Nothing stress related, just like, you know, go on the go. But I'm okay. Like, you know, I did what I was supposed to do. I understood my assignment. Everybody did not understand their assignment. And now we have to like endure it. So I'm very clear on what my calling is supposed to be in this life. I'm doubling down on it. I'm not going to be distracted. Um, and I'm going to enjoy myself as much as possible while I can. You know what I mean? Like I can't sit in despair. I did that 8 years ago. I was like emotionally fraught, having nervous breakdowns. I'm not doing that. I'm stronger. I'm a better person. I'm more mature. So I can like acknowledge the heartbreak and the trauma that many people will endure, potentially even myself, and still be like, I'm going to have fun tonight, and like laugh. And so, but I'm okay. Yeah. I'm looking forward to this break though. Like Friday, get here.
Are you going home?
No, my mom is here.
Oh,
So
Oh,
awesome.
she So we're going, I don't know if you know this, we're going to Iceland for New Year's
ooh, to see the
Okay,
lights.
to see the Northern Lights. So my
that's
sister
awesome.
asked a year ago, she was like, the Northern Lights are supposed to be like one of the most, like this iteration of the Northern Lights are supposed to be super intense. And it's during New Year's. Do we want to go? So Kina, her partner, my mom, and a friend of ours, we're going to Iceland for New Year's.
That's
Awesome.
awesome.
Yes to
Yeah.
black joy and black love.
On a side note, Ashley, can I ask you? You said 8 years ago you had a harder time like recovering from despair, and you were kind of in it. Like, so I'm sure there are other Black women who feel stretched, who feel a sense of despair. And so, what is your advice for them of like how to find rest and joy in the midst of everything, like going to Iceland for New Year's?
Yeah. Okay. So, well, I didn't know I was in despair.
Mm,
Hmm.
And I didn't know I was depressed, that I was suffering from extreme anxiety. And so, one, have people around you that can check on you. And if they like notice that you're not your normal self, will be like, I think let's have a sister girl intervention. That's the first thing. So, surround yourself with people who can love on you and help you come out of that despair. And then I'm the biggest advocate for therapy. So then like find a therapist to help you, because go to church, pray, do all those things, and pray for God to find you a therapist to guide you through this moment. And that's what I did.
Yeah.
And then I would also just say, like, getting out of the immediate worst iteration of the trauma is not sufficient.
Mm,
So I have been in therapy for the last 8 years because I committed to myself. I often was like, it wasn't like 2016 was not the first time I was in a traumatic or like experiencing pain or heartbreak, but it was the last time that I was like, I'm only gonna fix it just for the moment, versus like my well was completely dry. In 2016, I was like, I'm gonna get my well back up to being overflow, and then I'm gonna go dig another well and fill that one up too, and then dig another well. So it's like, get out of the immediate trauma the way you need to with help, and then stay the course to like really dig in, so that we're not always like just in like this immediate response. And then find a hobby, like find something that I reverted to just sitting on my couch all the time and just like eating Doritos. And it's like, no, find something that's going to get you out of the house. Whether even it could be simple as like, I walk, I'm a walker now, or now I'm like all into gardening. So that's my hobby. Like tonight, I'm like, I got to get my dirt, and like, I'm thinking about, like, I was on Amazon today looking at my pots, like, ooh, what kind of print do I want? And so, I'm a plant mommy now. So find a hobby.
I love that for you.
mhm.
I might be rounding down, but I have 58 plants in my house. I'm a
Oh my goodness.
Ashley, that's like a cat
I
lady.
was gonna
Tell
say
me
that's the version of a pet, the plant version of the cat lady.
they are it is wonderful. It's not excessive. It's not like this girl needs help. It's not.
how do you talk to 58 plants? Because plant people talk to their things.
We have group conversations
Oh, okay,
because
okay.
I can't.
they're in pods. And it's like over here, I have the TV plants, then I have the bookshelf plants, I have my window plants. Then I have the big girls that need like one on one. Those are like the Montesseras, right? Like and they have names, but everybody else, they're like a collective.
I love black
That's what's
women.
up.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I wanted to bring us back a little bit because we didn't actually allow you to introduce yourself, Ashley. So can you tell the people who you are?
Absolutely.
Okay, so because we know each other, so I'm Ashley Allison. I say my mail goes to Washington D.C. because I stay on the road, but I basically at this point split my time between three cities: DC, New York, and LA. I'm originally from Youngstown, Ohio. Kendra and I are god sisters. Our fathers were best friends growing up, and to the last day of my dad's life, they were still best friends. And what else do you want to know about me? I'm a plant mommy. I work in politics. Well, actually, I work in media now because I used to work in politics, and I do commentary on social justice issues and the politics of the day, which there is a lot of it, sadly.
Yes. Tell us about the vision behind Watering Hole Media and why you center us in your work.
Okay.
Good question.
I started Watering Hole Media in 2009 and I sent an email. Kendra Ross was on the two line. There were 12 people that were on the two line then. And it was right after Barack Obama had been elected. And what I felt, I'd always wanted to be an on air commentator in politics for CNN. But even in that moment, what I could see was like YouTube was popping up, Facebook was going from not needing college email addresses anymore to opening it up to the public. There were just all these new platforms that people were starting to interact with. And I was like, it feels like I'm getting my information from there as well as CNN. So I didn't have the opportunity to be on CNN. So I was like, what would it look like if I use Facebook or YouTube to get my message out? So I started it then and asked people to do some writing. And we lasted for about a year. And it just was too hard to keep up. I started law school after that. So we went into a very long hiatus. And then in the week of August 7th, 2023, if you all remember, there was this fight in Montgomery on a dock with a folding chair. And in those 24 hours, I remember waking up and seeing a post on Facebook that was like, they gonna find out one of these days. They can like keep playing with us. And in that morning, it was being reported like not in a positive light for Black people. I'll just say that. And then I watched the story happen on Black Twitter, on Instagram, the playlist, the dances, the reenactment. And by later that night, I went on CNN. There was a former law enforcement official that was going to go on, and he was going to talk about it through the lens of vigilantism. Like, I think, look at what's happening, actually. And I showed him the trends, and the story was he changed the way he framed it. He was like, yes, like people shouldn't be attacked. Like everybody needs to follow the law. And so I was like, dang, like these people are super creative, these creators that are out here. And I was like, what would it look like if we hired these people? Like, not when there was just a fight, but we just like empowered them to create. And I was with all these movement leaders, and they were like, great, go do it. And I was like, okay. So I decided it was like we were going to find some of the best creators out there and we were going to find talent and create shows that really spoke to us, but that center our stories, but also our stories for the masses. So we like focus on people of color, Black people, Indigenous people, but we just recently did a analysis of our audience, and yet 41% of our audience is white. So when we center our stories are everybody's stories.
Yeah.
It's been a labor of love. I mean, startups ain't no joke. I'll tell you that much.
Mhm.
we're in our final day-long planning retreat. We're on lunch right now, for Watering Hole about like the future. So yeah, that's
Awesome.
yeah. It's a long-term vision that like right time, right place, right moment.
Awesome.
It feels very connected to our kind of development in terms of this womanist work, right? We've been talking about doing a podcast, and then like a moment just came.
Yeah.
Remember? And here
Yeah.
we are.
It was this time last year because you came for the holiday party at the VP's house, and that was when
Sure. Yep. And here you are.
Here
and
you are.
yes.
Yes. Ken, I'll let you go because I have lots of questions.
I mean, I do too, but I mean, I want to like think about how, yes, you have Watering Hole Media, which I love to be somehow connected to just because I just see, you know, I see the vision, even though it's not my vision per se. I see the vision and I think it's important. One of the things I learned a lot from you and your team is that just about like how much, quote unquote, the other side invest in like all these different kinds of voices, where on ours it's just like we relegated ourselves to like these little boxes, and it's like no, like we've got to disseminate this far and wide. There can never be too many voices, and I learned that from your team, and that's why like that also actually empowers what we're doing. And so I'm just wondering in this moment, beyond what you're doing on CNN but also with Watering Hole, like what does it look like for all of us on this side, the progressive movement, going into this new administration? Like how can we stay unified and effective under like these new conditions that we're going into, and how do we use our voices in these platforms, and what are things that we can do together, and what are our marching orders right now? I mean, I know people are tired and I know we want to have our holiday rest, but I'm just thinking ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I will say a couple things. I think that if you are tired, rest. Just rest, right? So that when it's your time to tap in, you can. Okay.
Hmm.
That's how like in war, like there are people that are on the front line and there's people who are, so that's a strategy actually. Like resting is a strategy. And truth be told, a friend of mine reminded me of the great Sherilyn Eiffel. One time we were hearing her speak and she was like, look, this work is not for everybody. So like don't like we won't be mad if it's not work is not for you, but what you cannot do is get in our way.
Mm,
Mm,
Right. And then the other thing I would say is like right now, while I remember waking up the day after the election and catastrophizing the moment that we were in, and I was like, every immigrant is getting deported. And I was like, no, not that might happen, but that's not what is happening right now. What I
hmm.
need to do right now, very clear on the values that are going to be questioned daily starting January 20th and even are right now. So I would say like if you're feeling uncertain about this moment, it's like, what are your beliefs? Like what got you to November 5th, right? Like what are your beliefs? Do you really believe them? Fortify them, write them down, use them as like daily reminders, read them every day so that like when the pressure comes, you do not
yeah.
falter. Do not you're like a whack talking point and then be like, oh yeah, maybe we don't need to protect this community or maybe we don't need to protect this community. It's like, then those really aren't your values, you know? So I'm trying to get
Mm,
very clear what I believe right now. What can, no matter how enticing it may feel, won't be compromised. And then I am like really being clear on my lane. My lane is media right now. I am not going to go run an organization that is focused on like civil rights right now. My media work will have civil rights in it, but it's like, what is the work that I want to do? And then I think a lot of people will try and start new organizations. But the other thing I would just say, like, if you really want to do this work, one of the best things I did during the first Trump term was actually go work at the oldest civil rights coalition in this country. Because there is history there, and they have seen worse than we actually have. And so it was a time for me to like surround myself with people who have done this before. Like the former president of it, he was at the March on Washington. You know what I'm saying? So it's like there's stuff I can learn from our elders. So I'm also really trying to look back and think about like how our ancestors survived moments like this. And then the other thing is like, the reason why I say first is I'll end with this because it's like, yes, get very clear on your values. And then you got to decide if you're going to be afraid to stand, like my friend says, 10 toes down. Like
Yeah.
hmm.
When I and I don't just mean like when I'm on CNN. I mean like when you're in conversations with people, like every interaction with somebody that you might disagree with, like I cannot be afraid to speak the truth that I fundamentally believe in because it might not be the thing that like is popular right now. So if don't do it so you get fired, but like if you're at your church and something comes up and you're like, "That's problematic." Like, just letting it pass is a form of complicity that we have to be really vigilant not to have happen. Letting somebody say something on air and not being like, wait a minute, that's not, you know, can't be
We
control."
already know that's not how you get down.
Yeah, we be watching and we know.
Sorry, go
You
ahead.
can I just tell you, I I do not find myself confrontational on air. I think I just tell the truth. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, we
That's
love
what we're
that.
saying.
you know,
We love that. You're
like
practicing what you're preaching.
I literally sometimes be like, that is not true. Like, stop it. It's just a natural reaction. Like when you hear nonsense, don't you? What in the world? What am I? Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm, mm, mm.
Yeah, when Media Song was on, when I was watching it and I saw what was happening, I said, I already know how Ashley. I didn't know you were gonna be that like that, but I knew that you were gonna react because I know like you live your values, and I was like, there's no way this man is gonna leave this table without Ashley letting him know what time it is. And so when I saw it, I literally was crying watching the Instagram
Oh.
because I was like, yes, the spirit of the Allisons, the spirit of Youngstown is on that stage right now. People just don't know.
I
Aw.
have to tell you, that was like a very, very. I still haven't really even processed that whole moment because it was just
Mhm,
so wild. But I don't know Medi. I met Medi that day, right? But this is what I mean when I say like, and I know, people. Medi is an arguer by trade, right? Like that
mhm,
is what he. So Medi could have held his own,
mhm,
but sometimes you're in experiences and you see somebody be assaulted in some way, physically, verbally, emotionally, and you can see the immediate, like, I felt the hurt that Medi experienced.
Mm,
I don't actually care who it was. If you
mhm.
witness somebody hurt like that, I just think, like, you can't call yourself a Christian if you just let it pass. Like, that's not the work of Jesus Christ, in my belief. You know what I mean? Like, I don't actually even need to know anything about you, but like, right is right and wrong is wrong. And I think, you know, that's why I call myself a Christian because, like, in moments like that, and I will tell you, the spirit was there. Like, I don't even remember
mm.
it wasn't me speaking in that moment. It was just like, this is what it is. Like, nope, can't do that. Not going, not, can't do it. Can't do, it just, everybody was like, and you just, it was wild. I used to be a teacher. And if I saw my students behave like that, I would have reprimanded them. And like, again, I felt like the spirit of Catherine Allison come over me at that table too. I actually felt the spirit of Catherine Allison and Betty Lucille Wallace because the Betty Lucille Wallace
Mhm.
was the I don't care. I
The
don't accept.
pistol.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yes.
Wow. Let's talk a little bit about ancestors. You talked about there's everyone doesn't have a place always in the work, but some of us are carrying forward energy and the legacy of our ancestors. What is their role in this moment as we look towards January?
Oh my gosh, that's such a powerful question. And that's a lot of the work that I've been doing with my therapist. So my father died. It would be 2 years in March, and like we watched him take his last breath. And it was one of the most beautiful things I have ever seen in my life to see somebody transition to the other side. It was obviously one of the saddest things, but like the peace in which it happened, I feel so blessed to have been able to witness his transition. And I had taken like I've been in, like I said, in therapy those last 8 years, but I had was transitioning from one therapist to the next because like I felt like my therapist had got me out of this trauma. And now I was like trying to do this holistic healing, faith-led work. And one of the things that she has really been like talking to me about is like when people, regardless of the relationship you have with people who have now become ancestors, like when they transition to the other side, all they operate is in love, right? Like they don't operate in fear or anxiety or distrust, or it's all in love. So she always is like, when you pray, like also ask them to guide you, to like make it
Yes.
clear. And like the way my dad's name was Benny Wayne, been all up and like I'll be like, okay, daddy, just give me a second. Like I can't move that fast at some point, you know. My grandmother, like feeling my grandmother in that moment, feeling, and I think I posted that on social media. It was like I felt the spirit of my grandmother with me in that moment, to be like, she was so like demure. She was demure before demure was a word, but like she would tell you off without even knowing. And then like and my other grandmother and my grandfather, and just like this spirit of entrepreneurship that I have, I get it from my grandfather. Like he was a former police officer, but like they used to run the only Black hotel in Youngstown, Ohio. Like it's in me, and I'm getting downloads from them without even knowing. And then the ancestors I never even knew, right? Those that have come before me, like pulling on their strength. Like if you made it across the Atlantic, like you strong. You know what I'm saying? Like so we how do
Mhm.
I pull them even if I don't know their names? And just open to it and receive it in love and guidance. And I just think there's so much power. I feel so much more powerful. I know I just am never moving alone. I always know that, just as like a Christian, but I'm like I have an army behind me, surrounding me, clearing the way, and surrendering to it has just been like it's like the best work I've done, and I really would encourage people. uh, it also was like, the prayer was, I probably wouldn't have found this therapist but for my father passing, right? I wouldn't have found work and been able to do this work but for his transition, because I looked for something different in this new state of life and world order. So they are like magical. They're not they're like it's powerful. And I'm like, the fact that you even asked that question at my last therapy on Monday, and I'll be like, guess what? I was on this podcast.
Yeah, for the listeners, we'll put a link to a book called When Parts Speak in the show notes, and it's internal family parts work and ancestral work combo, and it's written by a Black woman, and it's a really powerful read. And I think as we move towards how we will fortify ourselves, I think our ancestors are going to be an important part of that. So thank you for that, Ashley.
I'm gonna read that. I'm gonna get that. I haven't read it.
We don't have much time, and I really, you mentioned earlier we are a faith-based critique of the church, but we are a faith-based womanist podcast, and you just expertly sprinkled in your faith into this conversation. But I want to spend a little bit more time in that. We explored intersections of faith and pop culture and activism, politics, and I want to hear a little bit more. I mean, you talked about it in your therapy work, you talked about it in just how you prepare yourself for media, but like really want to talk a little bit more about how your faith and your faith community, if that's a thing for you, has played a role in your personal
Yeah.
resilience, in your work, and sustaining all this amazing work you've done in a very short, because you're still young, in a very short life, and so much more to go. So we would love to hear about how your faith plays into everything.
We'll be back after a quick break.
Looking to take your podcast to the next level? Centering Equity Productions has your back. With our expert team, we specialize in crafting high-quality audio content that captivates your audience and boosts your brand. From concept development to marketing strategies, we handle it all so you can focus on what you love, creating amazing stories. Whether you're a seasoned podcaster or just starting out, we'll help you shine in the crowded podcasting landscape. Let's bring your vision to life and make some noise together. Contact us at info@centeringequityllc.com or www.centeringequityllc.com.
Yeah. I mean, interestingly enough, I mean, look, I grew up, my grandmother used to have this prayer table. My grandma was my mom's mother. We used to have this like prayer table that we would do our daily prayers at, and she'd have like the holy oil from, she swore it was from Jerusalem. It might have not, you know what I'm saying? It could have been.
Don't do her like that.
No, no, it was. And my aunt had, anyway. And then my other grandmother, but we didn't really go to church every Sunday, right? We were like Easter Sunday Christians, but it was like in the house. And then my other grandmother though, she was like a nurse at the church, and like, y- a nurse meaning that like she wore the white dress, but she was not a nurse.
And the hat.
She was there. People started shouting and stuff and caught the Holy
Yes.
Spirit.
That's right.
And you
That's right.
need a prayer shawl so your legs not showing.
That's right. I just realized like she was not a so that's like wild in and of. But she did go to church every Sunday. And so when we would spend our summers with her, so like, and then I went to Catholic school my whole life. So it was like around me all the time. But to be honest, it wasn't until actually I used to sleep on Kendra's couch for 2 seasons in my life. Once when I was interning, and two when I uh first moved to New York. And Kendra lived right across the street from this church where I then went because Kendra comes from a very like faith-based family. And so that's when I started to go to church regularly. And but honestly, like I was christened as a little girl, but I was baptized the weekend, or I gave my life to Christ the weekend of Hurricane Katrina, because I was in California with this woman who lived in New Orleans, and we were at a Delta conference, and the news of the levees and all of that was happening, and she left, and she had to leave and go to Alabama. She couldn't even go back home. And the first thing she did was just start praying. And I was like, the first thing I would have done was like call my insurance company. But you know what I mean? Like, okay. But they just started praying, and I was like, what is happening? Like what has happened in your life that you believe that like prayer is actually the first thing you do in a moment of crisis? And so I was like, and I really, really respected and loved this woman. And so I was like, okay, like I'm gonna try this thing out. And went to Brown, went to the 8 a.m. service, which I never did because I had a red eye, and I like walked down the aisle. And then it took me like 2 years to get baptized. But I think, I can't quote scripture. That's not the type of person I am. But one thing I try and do is also experience my faith through other cultures. So I also am a big yogi. And one of the most powerful lessons that I learned, and like when I was in Mexico in 2017, as I like really started my practice of healing, and my faith was rooted in all of it. But what I started doing was going into different, which some people who are Christians would be like are demonic things, but I went to a Mayan sweat lodge, right? To like get some clarity. And one of the things that came to me while I was meditating was the value of family, but also that like we are all so connected, and it actually is the demonic spirit that wants you to believe you're not. And like the ancestors that the in the Tezmacao that like they are pulling on, ancestors that I too can pull on, and that like you can find power in other expressions of faith if the values are the same. And it's
Mhm.
like a lot of Christians would like feel comfortable talking about, but it's something actually as I go into this next chapter, I'm actually going to start doing more of, because the thing that got us to the point that we are right now is, I think, a spirit of divisiveness and hate.
Mm.
All are not the same actually, and we all don't have this. And that, I mean, that's how I try and like move when I'm building coalitions and work. And it doesn't mean we always have to agree, and it doesn't mean that like the way you practice I'm going to practice, because that's not what I how my path is. But that is how faith has really been integrated into me. And because of that, I watch like 10 sermons a week. Okay. I like go to church all the time on planes, trains, and auto. But the last time the last time I was at a church was actually one Sunday before the election. But I don't go to church that much anymore. Not because I don't think there's value in the church. It's just not like the chapter I'm in right now. I think would I love to find a more like stable faith community? Yes, but I'm not going to force it right now.
Hmm.
But I like talk about my faith with, and we like pray and we talk about like how God is working and whatnot. But it probably doesn't, like, if you were to talk to a traditional pastor, they would be like, you need to find church on me. And I'm like, perhaps. Or I feel closer to God now than I probably ever have in my life. So like what is the goal, I guess.
Yeah.
You're preaching
You
to
know?
the choir with that. We talk about that often on the podcast. And I just want to say for the show notes, there's a book that I read a long time ago called Serene Compassion, A Christian Appreciation of Buddhist Holiness by Carmody. And then also there's several writings by Bell Hooks on the
Yes.
intersection between Buddhism and Christianity and her own faith practice and ethic, her ethics. Also, would love to ask you real quick, Ashley, before I hand it over to Kelly. What are some of your favorite passages that you like to listen to? And is there a sermon that you love that we might want to add to the show notes?
Oh, so I'm a TD Jakes girl.
It's okay. You can admit it.
Family bless me, right? Like and the reason why is because I find he has range. I find him very academic, even though he does do shouting, hollering. Like he knows the scripture, and there's an academic nature to it that I need for my own like cerebral approach to
Intellect.
time to
Yeah.
like do that. I like Sarah Jakes too. Um,
Hmm.
I like you come now. I'm like I can see faces, but I can't call names. Moss. I like to listen to Moss.
Otis Moss.
Um, and honestly, you know, no, I'm not gonna name nobody else. I'm done. I'm gonna because the way I do it, like those are the people I listen to all the time. And then there are people that like I'll start 15 minutes, I'm like this ain't it, and I'll find like I'll keep moving. It's
Hmm.
an old sermon, but it is one by TD Jakes, and it talks about Sarah and Abraham, and like it is. I think it like that is one of my favorite stories in the Bible because it just feels like just when you feel like it's over or that there is no pathway forward, like is actually like how foolish are you to like limit you. And so
Hmm.
I think when people sometimes look at me and like, why did she think she could do?
Do these things.
Why did she think she should start what I heard me now? I'm like, well, Sarah had a baby at 100 plus, so like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, I do.
like whenever I like just doubt. And then another one might come to me before the end of the show because there is one that's in the front of my head, but I can't place it right now. But that one I like watch a lot, and it's a very very long. It's probably from like the early 2000s, but I pull on it a lot of the lessons in it.
Hmm.
I
Thank
hear that.
you.
If you think of something in the middle of the night, feel free to text me. I'll send it over to our producer.
Okay,
Yes.
don't say
I love it.
the
Because
the
you
way
will and will.
the way up is that I have all these text messages that are in draft form that I like then hit because I like write them at 3 a.m. and I'm like, just don't be that disrespectful and like have some boundaries, you know? But
I just won't answer it till when I wake up.
I tell my pastor all the time, like, I had no idea there were terms for the ways people like us think. And she and I often talk about the fact that because I was raised Pentecostal, she was raised Baptist, we both went to Catholic school and we both have went to PWIs and spaces where we were around people who had different beliefs and perspectives, that we can hold a lot of things. And there's actually a theological term it called hermeneutics of suspicion,
hermeneutics,
right?
yes.
Yeah. So
Hmm.
it's like I am questioning and I can be open that maybe the way I was raised is not the only way, right? And
Yeah.
so then that opens me up to explore and receive what these other paths and beliefs have to offer me, right? And I don't think
Mm.
that makes me a heretic. I don't think that that makes me any less of a Christian than someone else. And so I'm like, oh, okay, I blame my mom because she's the one who had me in all these very eclectic environments that most of my family wasn't in, that have allowed me to form my
Mhm.
own perspective
Hermeneutics.
and my own belief system. So yeah.
I feel like
Absolutely.
Miller gave us that actually. Like the hermeneutics of
Yeah.
suspicion, like that's one thing. If I could draw anything from my relationship with him, our fellow pastor together in Brooklyn, was that hermeneutics of suspicion. He's talked about it, and I think that's where where he really thrives is in that like teaching piece, similar to what you said, that academic side of it, to like for people who are really cerebral like us to be like, it's okay to
Yeah.
doubt and question because you
Yeah.
can you can hold space for different ideas.
I actually think it makes your Christian walk, like, more rigorous, actually, like,
Yeah.
Mhm.
this guy who was a Rastafarian, and he, like, only listened to, like, what would be considered non-secular Rastafarian music, you know? And I was like, if you can only listen to that, because the outside world is so tempting, like, how rigorous is your commitment to Rastafarian? Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you cannot walk in the world with all of these temptations and still stay committed to your beliefs, then what are we like?
Mhm.
Really believe it, or you just like,
Yeah.
so
We'll be back after a quick break.
Are you a Black woman in middle management looking to elevate your leadership skills in a safe space? Then listen up, because I have something special just for you. Join a coaching group of like-minded women focusing on emotional intelligence, management skills, and leading in white spaces. In our group coaching sessions, you'll gain leadership skills, tools, and strategies. Plus, you'll gain a powerful network of sisters who understand your journey. No more leaning alone. Ready to take the next step? Visit www.iamkelly to learn more and join a cohort. Let's lead together.
Well, as we're wrapping up, first of all, I just want to say thank you, Ashley. But we usually do our favorite takeaways from the conversation. And I think maybe things we want to leave people with. So, do you have a takeaway, something that was said, something that you heard, or something you want to leave people with before we let you go?
we gonna be all right. We gonna be all right. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not gonna be easy, but Kina, my sister, she said, well, I'm just grateful I come from a resilient people, and that's the first thing. But then the other thing I was gonna say is like, get your rest, but like also find community. The biggest thing folks can do right now is to isolate and just, wither away. It's like, no, I'm an introvert, but like I'm really forcing myself to be in community. It's why I was like, I didn't stop traveling all this month, because I was like, don't just allow yourself to be like, whatever, I'm not being bothered. Um, and congratulations. This is great. I think that, some of the conversations we've been having at Watering Hole is like the role of faith in many of our communities that have led us to this moment. And so it's great to see like this up and running, and this is so needed. There's a lot of faith podcasts, but they're not all doing this. Many are
Mhm.
not. So well done. Congrats. I'm excited.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank you.
I'll start with my takeaway and just say that for me, an overwhelming sense of pride. Ashley is my god sister, as she mentioned, and we are like 7 years apart. So I remember when she was a little girl, and I remember when her parents called me when she was in like college and was like, Ashley needs to do an internship and she doesn't have housing. Can she come stay with you for the summer? And I was like, okay, sure. And I knew she was a powerhouse. She was the leader in the Deltas and doing all these amazing things, even as a young person. But to watch her trajectory and to see where she is, and then for her to even, with all the accomplishments she's had and all she's overcome and all she's gone through, to still be centering faith in everything she does, it only adds to my sense of pride, but also my inspiration. Because even though she's younger, I still look up to a lot of what she's doing and find inspiration in how she moves in the world. And so I'm just grateful to know her and grateful to watch her trajectory and grateful that she joined us today. And I just think it's funny that she was talking about the apartment where she stayed on the couch, like Kelly didn't know about it, because Kelly used to live there. That was her couch too at one point, but not when she was there. Sorry, go ahead.
No worries. My takeaway is confirmation of what I've been saying, which is that I don't know about the rest of the world, but Black folks will be okay. And to Ashley, to your point, it's not that it won't be difficult, but if we surround ourselves with our people and draw upon the wisdom of our struggles in this country, we have what we need to make it through the next few years. And we need to just anchor and fortify and stay focused. So I'm really just grateful for the sister circle that I've built and that I know I can count on that sister circle. I'm grateful for the work that I've built over the past few years and that I can be in service of Black women who are leading in this moment. So, for those who have been feeling distraught, I hope that this episode gives you some takeaways that you can pull on to bring yourself into the posture that you want to have in the years to come.
All right.
Awesome.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Ashley.
Thank you,
You. It's good to
Ashley.
see you.
Well, I love you. Thank you so much.
Merry
Safe travel.
Christmas. Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas.
Merry
Happy New
Christmas.
Year.
While we're at it, because this is being released on January 1st, I'd love just all four of us just to just say a quick word about what we're most looking forward to and excited about for 2025 as opposed to just the dread of January 20th. And I can start. I would just say that I feel blessed to be going into 2025 working with an all Black women team on this podcast. We have completed season 1 as of this episode. Woo! So congratulations to us, onward and upward. And I'm gonna be transparent in that this is a completely self-funded. Kelly and I are also executive producers, and in that we're paying for all of this, and we are not paying industry rates, but we are paying as close to it as we can get. So if you are a sponsor, if you are just a listener who loves and wants to support us, please reach out.
Yeah.
You can reach out via our website, This Womanist Work Podcast. You can reach out through our email, thiswomanistworkpodcast@gmail.com. But I'm looking forward to season 2, and I'm looking forward to beyond the podcast, focusing on my creativity, getting back into my art and singing and things like that. So I'm really excited about what's to come. This is the time when creators and when artists do their best work.
Ugh. I'm always excited for some Kendra Ross art. So yes for us. Yes for us. I mean, I'm excited because there's some dope Black women in leadership. So in terms of my work, I'm really excited to watch them really step forward into their leadership and really help be the light and the beacons for the communities that they're leading. I feel very inspired by Black women like Ashley and others. They have it, right? Like they have the confidence, they have the intellect, and they've created the platforms for themselves. And so we need to be looking to them and listening to them and championing them in this moment, especially.
For me, I think you kind of captured it. Well, you both kind of captured it. I think what I'm looking forward to the most is seeing the creativity that comes or emerges for folks in 2025. And I know that's already happening for me. I know that to be the case for myself of, just kind of future casting and projecting all of these things that I have wanted to do and wanted to participate in, and folks that I've wanted to collaborate with on certain projects and things. But it's just kind of fallen to the back burner for whatever reason. And there's certain synchronicities happening now that are allowing those things. And despite whatever is happening externally and societally and larger community wide, my community is doubling down on supporting one another and being there for one another. And I am just very excited to see the fruit that will bear in 2025.
Awesome. Yeah.
Hello. What am I excited about? I feel like 2024 kind of started off kind of crazy. There was a lot of movement and starting new opportunities and just a lot of transition, I feel like, in 2024. And I feel like those things going into 2025 are finally coming to fruition, and new opportunities are coming from that. And so I'm excited to see what that looks like next year. I mean, Leatra and I started this whole, podcast production thing and doing that. I'm excited to see what comes from that.
just with my own professional opportunities, I'm excited to see where those things go, because some things are starting to come about now. And so I'm excited to see what happens there. And, you know, we'll see what the new year brings. I'm excited about a lot of different things, though. I don't feel as much dread as I thought I would feel, and that's a nice place to be. So
Awesome. Ooh, ooh. Let the Holy Ghost use you. Let the Holy Ghost
Let the
use you.
church say amen.
Let the church say
so
amen.
that is also probably going to be happening. However, let's all relax. Thank you so much.
Where are we going for this wedding?
Thank you.
Oh, you already know I'm gonna be there. So let me know as soon as you know the date.
Oh my God.
Absolutely.
What did you say?
A live podcast from the wedding.
That's hilarious.
Listen, I'm here
And
for it.
you know Mama Cheryl gonna want to marry y'all. Oh, it's gonna be
She
juicy.
absolutely is. They just clocked it. They said, and you know, Mama Sharon's gonna want to marry y'all. She absolutely. She just. What did she say? She had her dress picked out with like a cape, like a long cape. I think she said she wanted to wear white. We have some things to clarify, but
We don't have anything to clarify. There's nothing to clarify.
I cannot.
Oh my God, today. Oh.